I guess I'm here because I'm going to tell a little story about being very privileged. Privileged not because I grew up with a lot of wealth, but privileged because I grew up with great parents. And I do mean parents, right? My mom was a tremendous role model for all of us. 5 kids, my brother and 3 sisters. And so you grow up in an environment that teaches you about how to interact with each other and teaches you about what's important. My mom, very much ahead of her time, was an executive at Metropolitan Life in the 1950s. And she told us a story of getting her first supervisory position and being told that we won't pay you as much as the gentleman who had it before you because he had a family. And she told that story to us as young kids so that we would remember it. She had a very effective way of driving that kind of storytelling. And the real magic in our family was that my father was absolutely supportive and an equal partner in that marriage, and to this day. They are both 87 years old. They both support each other in a tremendous way, and they set an example for not just their daughters, but for their sons of how to live and how to engage the world. And so that's a message that I take every day, and part of how I think about it is a tribute to my parents is living the right way in terms of how I run our corporation. And what I really understand is that while I'm in the seat, we run a corporation. It is a collaboration of lots of people, and it's a culture that we try to set together. So when I think about what am I proud of when we look at our company, GuideWell and Florida Blue, I'm really proud about things like equality index for our company is 100%. Because thank you. Because we want the contributions of everyone in our organization. Last year, the United States Business Leadership Network selected 2 companies nationwide to identify for leadership for people with disabilities. And we were one of those 2 companies. So a Jacksonville company on a national stage. And when we look at our organization, it's not just about numbers, but numbers do tell you some things. On our board of directors, we have 3 women, and we are currently recruiting for the 4th woman on a 10-person board. Very different than most of your Fortune 100 companies. When you look at our leadership, we have about 40% of our officers that are women, and that's not good enough, and we're working to make that even better. But clearly head and shoulders above many organizations. And so our organization is a very inclusive place. But being inclusive doesn't mean you've gotten there, right? So I go to Davos the last 3 years, the World Economic Forum, and I have the great opportunity to be in a session with my lovely wife, Inger, who's a strong woman who keeps me in line, by the way, and teaches me lots of lessons. But we're in a session at Davos that we picked off the agenda because thought it would be important to be there, and it was about how women and men interact in the workplace. So we walk into this session, and there's 200 seats, and I'm one of 2 men in the session, 198 women there. So we got some work to do there. But in this session, one of the most powerful lessons that I heard was a leader of an orchestra. Different story altogether, but I will tell you, he leads an all-female orchestra in Afghanistan, of all places. Powerful example, but his example for this session was to talk to us about orchestras in general. And worldwide, orchestras are about 96% male and 4% female. And just a short while ago, a couple of the main orchestras have decided to go to blind auditions. They put up the curtain, they have the person who is trying to be in the orchestra do their audition behind the curtain, and those that have done that are now 40% female. right? If you ever watched the show The Voice, the power of that show, and by the way, I'm not afraid to say I love it, the power of that show is that people get to show off their talent without being seen, and they're judged, initially at least, on the merit of what they bring to the stage. And that's the power of the example that he gave us. The other lesson from that particular session was hearing about a woman leader, happened to be from the United States, but she was talking about the subtle things, not the big, sexual misconduct things, the subtle things that happen in environments. And those subtle things are the kinds of things that we really have to self-examine about. And she was talking about mansplaining. Does anyone know that term? Sure you do. She was talking about men over-talking women in meetings. She was talking about a woman suggesting something early in a meeting and the crickets are playing, and then later in the meeting a guy comes up with that idea and it's absolutely acclaimed and he gets the credit, right? So I'm making notes here saying, oh my goodness, yeah, So as open as you think you are, there are lessons for all of us. So I came back, and my team is in the audience here, many of them, and they know I did this. I stood up in front of an all-employee meeting and talked about that. I also talked about it at my board of directors dinner, and I talked about it to my leadership team. And you know what? At our board of directors, the women on the board said, you guys do this. And it opened up a very rich conversation among what we all thought was an enlightened board. After all, we have more women than most boards, but it opened up a very good dialogue about how we connect with each other. And in my organization, my team and the broader management team were excited about the conversation. As a matter of fact, a lot of women came back to me and said, thank you for bringing that up, because what it created was now a place to have that conversation. Am I telling you we're perfect? Absolutely not. But the first step on a journey is self-awareness, and then it's committing yourself to change, and then it's changing. And so what I put out there is, as we think about Me Too and Time's Up and our time, it really is about doing this together. This is not about women versus men. This is about women and men saying it's time that we do this together, and it is our time.